Adolf Hitler, 20 April 1889 to 30 April 1945, was an Austrian-born German politician who was the dictator of Germany from 1933 to 1945. He rose to power as the leader of the Nazi Party, becoming chancellor in 1933, and then taking the title of Führer und Reichskanzler in 1934. His invasion of Poland on 1 September 1939 marked the outbreak of the Second World War. Throughout his leadership, he was closely involved in German military operations and the perpetration of the Holocaust, the genocide of about 6 million Jews and millions of other victims. Hitler was born in Braunau am Inn in Austria-Hungary. He was decorated during his service in the German army in the First World War. In 1919, he joined the German Workers' Party DAP, the precursor of the Nazi Party, and was appointed its leader in 1921. In 1923, he attempted to seize governmental power in a failed coup in Munich and was sentenced to prison, where he dictated the first volume of Mein Kampf. After his release, he gained popular support by attacking the Treaty of Versailles and promoting pan-Germanism, anti-Semitism, and anti-communism. By November 1932, the Nazi Party held the most seats in the Reichstag. Hitler was appointed chancellor on 30 January 1933. Shortly thereafter, the Reichstag passed the Enabling Act of 1933, which began the process of transforming the Weimar Republic into the one-party dictatorship of Nazi Germany. Upon President Hindenburg's death in 1934, Hitler became the absolute head of state and government. Domestically, he implemented numerous racist policies and sought to deport or kill German Jews. His first 6 years in power resulted in rapid economic recovery from the Great Depression, the abrogation of restrictions imposed on Germany after the First World War, and the annexation of territories inhabited by millions of ethnic Germans. Hitler's key goal of Lebensraum, living space, in Eastern Europe, and his aggressive foreign policy are considered the primary cause of World War II in Europe. He directed large-scale rearmament and invaded Poland, causing Britain and France to declare war. In 1941, he ordered an invasion of the Soviet Union and Germany declared war on the United States. By the end of 1941, German forces and the European Axis powers occupied most of Europe and North Africa, but these gains were gradually reversed after 1941. On 29 April 1945, he married Eva Braun in the Führerbunker in Berlin, and the couple committed suicide the next day. Under Hitler's leadership and racist ideology, the Nazi regime was responsible for the genocide of an estimated 6 million Jews and millions of other victims. The Nazi regime was also responsible for the deliberate killing of an estimated 19.3 million civilians and prisoners of war. The number of civilians killed during World War II was unprecedented, making it the deadliest conflict in history. Hitler's father, Adolf Hitler, was the illegitimate child of Maria Schicklgruber. He was made legitimate in 1876 and assumed the surname Hitler. Adolf Hitler was the fourth of 6 children born to Adolf Hitler and his third wife, Clara Perlzel. The family moved to Passau, Germany, in 1892, and then to Leonding, Austria. Hitler's father wanted him to become a customs officer, but Hitler rebelled and was sent to a Realschule in Linz. His performance deteriorated after his father's death in 1903. He left school in 1905 without further career plans. In 1907, Hitler moved to Vienna to study fine art, but was rejected twice by the Academy of Fine Arts. His mother died later that year. He lived in homeless shelters and earned money by painting and selling watercolors. It was during his time in Vienna that Hitler was first exposed to widespread racist and German nationalist rhetoric. Hitler moved to Munich, Germany, in 1913. He was deemed unfit for service when conscripted by the Austro-Hungarian army in 1914. In August 1914, at the outbreak of World War I, Hitler was living in Munich and voluntarily enlisted in the Bavarian army. Posted to the Bavarian Reserve Infantry Regiment 16, He served as a dispatch runner on the Western Front in France and Belgium. In 1914, he was decorated for bravery, receiving the Iron Cross, second class. He was wounded in the left thigh during the Battle of the Somme in October 1916. In August 1918, he received the Iron Cross, first class. On 15 October 1918, he was temporarily blinded in a mustard gas attack and was hospitalized. While there, Hitler learned of Germany's defeat. Hitler described the war as the greatest of all experiences, and his wartime experience reinforced his German patriotism. He was shocked by Germany's capitulation, and like other German nationalists, believed the stab-in-the-back myth. This myth claimed that the German army, undefeated in the field, had been betrayed on the home front by civilian leaders, Jews, and Marxists. The Treaty of Versailles and the post-war conditions in Germany were later exploited by Hitler for political gain. After the war, Hitler returned to Munich and remained in the army. In July 1919, he was assigned to infiltrate the German Workers' Party DAP. At a DAP meeting, his oratorical skills impressed the party leadership, and he was ordered to join the party. Hitler soon met Dietrich Eckart, who became his mentor. To increase its appeal, the DAP changed its name to the National Socialist German Workers' Party, NSDAP, or Nazi Party. Hitler designed the party's banner of a swastika in a white circle on a red background. Hitler was discharged from the army in March 1920 and began working full-time for the party. He soon gained notoriety for his rowdy, polemic speeches against the Treaty of Versailles, rival politicians, Marxists, and Jews. In July 1921, after a party mutiny, Hitler successfully demanded to be made the absolute chairman of the party, succeeding its founder Anton Drexler. A demagogue, Hitler used personal magnetism and an understanding of crowd psychology in his speeches. Early followers included Rudolf Hess, Hermann Göring, and Ernst Röhm, who became head of the Nazis' paramilitary organization, the Sturmabteilung SA. The program of the Nazi Party, laid out in their 25-point program, was a conglomeration of ultranationalism, opposition to the Treaty of Versailles, and strong antisemitism. In 1923, Hitler enlisted the help of General Erich Ludendorff for an attempted coup known as the Beer Hall Putsch, modeling it on Mussolini's March on Rome. On 8 November 1923, Hitler and the SA stormed a public meeting in a Munich beer hall, declaring a national revolution. The next day, Hitler and his followers marched on the Bavarian War Ministry, but police dispersed them. In the failed coup, 16 Nazis and 4 police officers were killed. Hitler was arrested for high treason. His trial began in February 1924, and on 1 April, he was sentenced to 5 years imprisonment at Landsberg prison. He served just over 1 year before being released. While in prison, Hitler dictated most of the first volume of Mein Kampf to Rudolf Hess. The book was an autobiography and exposition of his ideology, presenting Jews as a societal poison and laying out his plans for a racial dictatorship and territorial expansion. Upon his release from prison in 1925, Hitler found a less volatile political and economic climate in Germany. He met with the Bavarian Prime Minister and promised to seek power only through democratic means, which led to the ban on the Nazi Party being lifted. However, Hitler was soon barred from public speaking until 1927. To grow the party despite this, he appointed Gregor Strasser, Otto Strasser, and Joseph Goebbels to organize the Nazi Party in northern Germany. The stock market crash of 1929 and the ensuing Great Depression had a dire impact on Germany, causing mass unemployment and bank failures. Hitler and the Nazi Party exploited this crisis, promising to repudiate the Treaty of Versailles, strengthen the economy, and provide jobs. The Great Depression provided a major political opportunity for Hitler. The moderate political parties were unable to manage the crisis, and governance by presidential decree became the norm. The Nazi Party rose from obscurity to win 18.3% of the vote in the 1930 election, becoming the second largest party in parliament. Hitler testified at a trial in 1930 that his party would pursue power solely through democratic elections, a statement that won him support from the military and industrialists. He targeted his messages at those affected by the economic crisis, such as farmers, war veterans, and the middle class. In 1932, Hitler became a German citizen, allowing him to run for office. He lost the presidential election to Paul von Hindenburg, but established himself as a major political force. After several failed elections to form a stable government, a group of conservative politicians and industrialists persuaded a reluctant Hindenburg to appoint Hitler as chancellor on 30 January 1933, heading a coalition government. To secure absolute power, Hitler's government used the Reichstag fire of February 1933 as a pretext to issue the Reichstag fire decree, which suspended civil rights and allowed for detention without trial. The subsequent March 1933 election gave the Nazis a plurality, but not a majority. Hitler then introduced the Enabling Act, which would allow his cabinet to enact laws without the Reichstag's consent for 4 years. After arresting communist deputies and intimidating others, the act was passed on 23 March 1933, effectively transforming Hitler's government into a legal dictatorship. Hitler then moved to eliminate all opposition. Trade unions were dissolved, and all other political parties were forced to disband. By 14 July 1933, the Nazi Party was declared the only legal party in Germany. In the Night of the Long Knives in June 1934, Hitler purged the SA leadership and other political adversaries to consolidate his support among the military and industry. When President Hindenburg died in August 1934, Hitler merged the offices of Chancellor and President, declaring himself Führer und Reichskanzler, leader and chancellor. The military swore a personal oath of loyalty to him. With this, Hitler eliminated the last legal remedy to remove him from office. Hitler's government implemented massive public works and rearmament programs, which drastically reduced unemployment. The economy was geared towards war preparation under the 4-year plan. The regime also sponsored immense architectural projects and successfully hosted the 1936 Olympic Games. Hitler's foreign policy aimed at overturning the Treaty of Versailles and acquiring Lebensraum, living space, in Eastern Europe. He withdrew Germany from the League of Nations and began openly rearming, in violation of the Versailles Treaty. He remilitarized the Rhineland in 1936 and signed alliances, forming the Rome-Berlin Axis with Mussolini's Italy and the Anti-Comintern Pact with Japan. Hitler grew increasingly convinced that Germany's economic needs could only be met through military aggression, setting the stage for war. In February 1938, on the advice of his new foreign minister, Joachim von Ribbentrop, Hitler ended the Sino-German alliance with the Republic of China to instead enter into an alliance with the more powerful Empire of Japan. Hitler announced German recognition of Manchukuo, the Japanese puppet state in Manchuria, and renounced German claims to their former Pacific colonies held by Japan. On 12 March 1938, Hitler announced the unification of Austria with Nazi Germany in the Anschluss. Hitler then turned his attention to the ethnic German population of the Sudetenland region of Czechoslovakia. He secretly agreed with Konrad Henlein, leader of the Sudeten German Party, to make demands for increased autonomy that the Czechoslovak government could not accept, thus providing a pretext for a German invasion. Despite Hitler's real intention being a war of conquest against Czechoslovakia, intense French and British diplomatic pressure led to the Munich Agreement on 29 September 1938, which handed over the Sudetenland to Germany without a war. While British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain called it peace for our time, Hitler was angered by the missed opportunity for war. On 14 March 1939, Slovakia declared independence under German protection, and the next day, In violation of the Munich Agreement, Hitler ordered the Wehrmacht to invade the Czech Rump state, proclaiming it a German protectorate from Prague Castle. In 1939, Hitler declared Britain the main enemy to be defeated, and that Poland's obliteration was a necessary prelude. Offended by the British guarantee of Polish independence, he planned an invasion. This plan required tacit Soviet support, leading to the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, a non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union that included a secret agreement to partition Poland. After a brief delay to secure his diplomatic flanks, Hitler ordered the invasion of Poland on 1 September 1939, using the dispute over Danzig and the Polish corridor as a pretext. In response, Britain and France declared war on Germany on 3 September, beginning World War II. On 17 September, Soviet forces invaded eastern Poland, as per the secret pact. Following the fall of Poland, a period known as the Phony War ensued. Hitler then oversaw the invasion of Denmark and Norway in April 1940, and in May, Germany attacked France, conquering Luxembourg, the Netherlands, and Belgium. France signed an armistice on 22 June 1940. After Britain rejected his peace overtures, Hitler ordered the Battle of Britain, an aerial campaign intended to gain air superiority for a planned invasion, Operation Sea Lion. After the Luftwaffe failed to defeat the Royal Air Force, Hitler postponed the invasion indefinitely in September 1940. On 27 September 1940, the Tripartite Pact was signed in Berlin, forming the Axis powers between Germany, Italy, and Japan. After talks with Soviet Foreign Minister Molotov failed, Hitler ordered preparations for the invasion of the Soviet Union. On 22 June 1941, Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of the Soviet Union, aiming to destroy it and seize its resources. The initial advance was rapid, but a controversial decision by Hitler in August 1941 to divert forces from the advance on Moscow to encircle Leningrad and Kiev caused a crisis in the military leadership and allowed the Red Army to mobilize fresh reserves. The offensive on Moscow, resumed in October, ended disastrously in December. On 7 December 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. 4 days later, Hitler declared war on the United States. In late 1942, German forces were defeated at the Second Battle of El Alamein and at the Battle of Stalingrad, where Hitler's refusal to allow a withdrawal led to the destruction of the entire Sixth Army. A further decisive defeat followed at the Battle of Kursk in 1943. As the Soviet Union forced German armies into retreat, and the Western Allies landed in France in June 1944, Hitler's military judgment became increasingly erratic. The most significant assassination attempt, the 20 July plot of 1944, was carried out by German officers who believed defeat was inevitable. Klaus von Stauffenberg planted a bomb in Hitler's headquarters, but Hitler survived narrowly. Brutal reprisals followed. By late 1944, both the Red Army and Western Allies were advancing into Germany. In a final gamble, Hitler launched the Ardennes offensive in December 1944, which failed after initial successes. By April 1945, Soviet forces had surrounded Berlin. During the Battle of Berlin, Hitler, located in the Führerbunker, retreated from reality. On 29 April 1945, he married his longtime partner Eva Braun. The following day, 30 April, with Soviet troops within blocks of the Reich Chancellery, Hitler shot himself and Braun bit into a cyanide capsule. In accordance with his wishes, their bodies were carried outside, doused with petrol, and set on fire. The Holocaust and the war in the East were based on Hitler's core beliefs that the Jews were the enemy of the German people, and that Lebensraum, living space, was needed for Germany's expansion. The goal was to remove or kill the Jews and Slavs from Eastern Europe to be colonized by German settlers. Although no direct written order from Hitler authorizing the mass killings has been found, his speeches, orders to generals, and the diaries of Nazi officials demonstrate that he conceived and authorized the extermination of European Jewry. He repeatedly referred to his 1939 prophecy that a world war would bring about the annihilation of the Jewish race in Europe. The genocide was organized by Heinrich Himmler and Reinhard Heydrich. The Wannsee Conference on 20 January 1942 coordinated the systematic planning for the final solution. The Nazis used Einsatzgruppen, mobile killing squads, and built extermination camps like Auschwitz to carry out the genocide. Between 1939 and 1945, the Nazi regime was responsible for the deaths of at least 11 million noncombatants, including approximately 6 million Jews, two-thirds of Europe's Jewish population, and between 200,000 and 1,500,000 Romani people. Millions of others were also murdered, including non-Jewish Polish civilians, Soviet prisoners of war, political opponents, the disabled, homosexuals, and other groups deemed undesirable. Hitler also endorsed the Hunger Plan and Generalplan Ost, which planned to starve tens of millions of Slavs to create living space for German colonists. He additionally authorized early eugenic policies, including the Action T4 program that murdered adults with physical and mental disabilities. Hitler ruled the Nazi Party autocratically by asserting the Führerprinzip leader principle, which demanded absolute obedience from all subordinates. He structured the government as a pyramid with himself, the infallible leader, at the apex. His method was to give contradictory orders and create overlapping responsibilities to foster distrust and competition among his subordinates, thereby consolidating his own power. His cabinet never met after 1938. He dominated Germany's war effort to a greater extent than any other national leader. While his risky offensives in 1940 proved successful, his later strategic decisions were increasingly micromanaged and disconnected from reality. After appointing himself commander-in-chief of the army in 1941, he personally directed the war against the Soviet Union, often with disastrous results due to his slow decision-making and orders to hold untenable positions. In the final months, he refused to consider peace negotiations, preferring the destruction of Germany to surrender. The military leadership generally supported and enacted his decisions without challenge. Hitler cultivated a public image as a celibate man dedicated entirely to his political mission. However, he had a long-term relationship with Eva Braun, whom he married on 29 April 1945, a day before their joint suicide. In 1931, his half-niece, Jelly Robbel, committed suicide with his gun in his Munich apartment, an event that caused him deep, lasting pain. Hitler was born to a Catholic mother but left the church and did not practice Christianity as an adult. In private, he held Christian ethics in contempt and considered the religion absurdity founded on lies. He believed that Islam or Japanese beliefs might have been more suitable for Germans than Christianity. Publicly, he adopted a strategic relationship with the Christian churches, praising Germany's Christian heritage for political purposes. However, his long-term goal, as reported by contemporaries and intelligence agencies, was the eventual total destruction of Christianity in the Reich after the war. Hitler suffered from a number of health issues. Researchers have suggested he had irritable bowel syndrome, skin lesions, an irregular heartbeat, and Parkinson's disease, evidenced by a tremor in his left hand and a shuffling walk that worsened over time. He adopted a strict vegetarian diet and avoided alcohol and smoking. During the war, his personal physician, Theodor Morell, prescribed him numerous medications. Hitler became addicted to amphetamine, which associates linked to his increasingly erratic behavior and inflexible decision-making. He was also prescribed barbiturates, opiates, and cocaine. Historians describe Hitler as the embodiment of modern political evil. His political program brought about World War II, leaving behind a devastated and impoverished Europe. The Nazi regime was responsible for the genocidal killing of an estimated 19.3 million civilians and prisoners of war, and the war caused the deaths of 28.7 million soldiers and civilians in the European theater. His defeat marked the end of a phase of European history dominated by Germany and ushered in the Cold War. The name Adolf Hitler and the symbols of Nazism remain deeply stigmatized worldwide, and many European countries have criminalized the promotion of Nazism and Holocaust denial.